Oh, it's connecting. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SDG Global Festival of Action. Uh, it is incredible to welcome you here. This is an emotional day for me, as I'm sure it is for a number of you. And welcome to our panel or our co-creation workshop, Fair Play, Actioning Sustainability in the Music Industry. I think that we are going to be have a little welcome address from the amazing Marina Ponte in a minute, but I thought I would just quickly go through. Oh, she's closing. She'll be here at the end. So I thought I would quickly go through a little bit of housekeeping. So for those who do not know me, my name is Shane Shapiro. I am the founder of a company called Sound Diplomacy and the executive director of an NGO called the Center for Music Ecosystems. And I'm so incredibly thankful that we have an amazing group of geniuses from all over the world joining us today. But please, first off, to comply with UN broadcasting regulations, please note that this session is part of the SDG Global Festival of Action. So if you're joining here directly in Zoom, we strongly encourage that you log into the event platform afterwards, and we'll share the link in the chat if you haven't already. You can then benefit from joining any one of 6 stages, meeting and connecting with others in the connection zone. You can also check out up to 20 exhibits and find additional information in the resource library. And you have to know that by joining this webinar, you consent to your image and audio being broadcast. For those of you joining via Zoom, we have the opportunity here to promote participants to be featured on the screen with their cameras and microphone on. If we do that, you have automatically given us your consent for that. We have strict broadcasting regulations here. So if anyone is promoted to have their mics and camera on, please state that there are no flags, no logos, and ironically, no music permitted in the background. And if any of these broadcasting regulations are broken, we will need to remove you as a participant. So now that we have gotten through the terms and conditions, we're going to get right into it. So again, thank you all for joining us. This is not the first discussion to be held at the SDG Global Festival of Action related to music, but I believe it's the most extensive and one of the most exciting. So one part of this debate and this conversation is I'm going to introduce a report that the NGO, the Center for Music Ecosystems, released today in partnership with a number of organizations, including a lot of the geniuses who have joined us for this panel. So I'm going to share my screen and very, very briefly introduce your guide to music and the SDGs. And then the panelists will introduce themselves, and then we're going to have a little chat. So please, everyone, I see that Richard Jordan and Sharif Abdelhamid have already introduced themselves. It would be great if you could put your name and where you're from and what you do in the chat, so we can learn a little bit about where you're from. This is about you guys, not about us. This is, so we want to make sure that we learn as much from you as you hopefully will learn from us. So I'm going to share my screen very, very briefly. So I'm hoping everyone can see that. Everyone can see that. So this is just the executive summary. The full guide is available online. Alice, who is one of our hosts, will put the link in the chat for you. But this is the first ever guide to music and the Sustainable Development Goals. It covers every single SDG, all 17 SDGs. And the objective is, as we say here, to really understand how music can play a role in the global goals and how music can play a role in making the world a better place, economically, socially, and culturally. So we have a number of partners, of supporters and organizations who have joined us in this, but we have linked every single goal. And if you download the guide, you can read about examples and case studies of how music interacts with each of the SDGs. So, for example, ensuring fair pay for musicians helps end poverty in all forms everywhere. Or in quality education, making music education as mandatory as possible and supporting music education in all communities helps provide quality education. So this is a little brief, all in point form of what targets we think that we will meet, what we need to do, and how music supports each SDG. This is we go into quite extensive detail in the actual report. So just moving on, there are 17 goals, so there are 17 boxes, including how music supports decent work and economic growth, how we believe that music can reduce inequality, and it can be a tool to amplify marginalized voices, and how music can support sustainable cities, for example, by developing music tourism strategies, or working on resilience, economic and cultural resilience strategies at public venues. And lastly, if we look at the role of music in our climate, we all pay with our minds and pay with our wallets, and we have to be engaged in working with corporations and organizations and NGOs that put the climate first. And we believe that music even has a place to play in life below water and life on land and peace, justice, and strong institutions. So in the end, we found 10 key actions that anyone can utilize, whether you're a government, a civic institution, an NGO, or you, yes, you, who I'm speaking to right now. And these are the 10. I'm not going to read them off the screen. They're available, obviously, on the website. But really, it's about how we recognize music as an ecosystem. Music is more than economy, more than culture, more than our social good. It is everything. Music makes us healthier. Music makes us wealthier. And music is something that if we respect copyright, if we incorporate it into health and social care policies, if we recognize its impact on the environment and institute climate positive policies, if we promote music education and commit to gender equality and foster stronger partnerships between the music industry and the non-music industry, music can be an incredible tool to meet the global goals for everybody, not just musicians and the music industry, but for everybody, anyone who is touched by music in any country. And then there's some nice things that people said about the report on the right. I thank them all for that. And this is the debut report from the new Center for Music Ecosystems. This is a global NGO focused on advancing and understanding the development of music ecosystems to foster more sustainable communities. We believe that music has a place to play in all government policy, from sustainable development, gender equality, all the SDGs, intergovernmentally, internationally, nationally, locally, regionally, everywhere. But we need better research, we need better data, and we need to really understand the role that music can play. So that is the objective of the Center for Music Ecosystems. If you're interested in learning more about it, you go to centerformusicecosystems.com, or you can download the report as well. My email address is on the left as well if you want to get in touch with me. And now we're going to move on to the panel. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we have assembled an incredible panel of agents of change and change makers. These are people that inspire me every day. They're people who I have followed for a long time. Some I have downright copied, I'm going to be honest with you, and people who are really using music to make the world a better place. So I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Ruth, and then Anna, and then Ragnar, and then Noni. And then we are going to go into a little bit of a discussion. And the last thing is that please, 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 if you have a question or a comment, use the Q&A box and write the question in. I'm going to be moderating the panel and looking at the Q&As, and your questions are more important than my questions. So please, please communicate with us. I will raise as many of them as I possibly can during this time. And then after that, we will have, the woman herself, the boss, Marina Ponte, join us to say hello. So Ruth, over to you.
Thanks so much, Shane. It's a real pleasure to join everybody today. So I'm Ruth. I'm the Chief Exec and Artistic Director of an organisation called In Place of War. So we work with music, creativity and entrepreneurship as a tool for positive social change in places of conflict across the world. So we work across 26 countries, mostly Africa, Latin America and the Middle East. And we work with this incredible network of changemaker organisations working with music right at the grassroots in those communities. Essentially, we support those communities with three main pillars. So the first one is around the creation of music studios, music spaces, mobilising music equipment and training people in how to use that. The second is around giving people the tools to create music businesses. So we have education and entrepreneurial programs that we deliver around the world. And the third is around giving a platform to people with the most marginalised voices and using music as a way for people to tell their stories to the world. And I think underpinning all of our work are the UN SDG goals. So everything that we do is kind of driven by those goals, and every program that we deliver and every goal of the organisation is underpinned by those goals. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shane. Yes, I'm Anna, and I'm project manager at Music Innovation Hub. Music Innovation Hub is a Milan-based social enterprise founded in 2018 that works in the music sector, with the music sector, and for the music sector pretty much at 360 degrees, from events production like the Line Check Music Meeting and Festival to training and education and various social initiatives. But the reason we are here today is that at a national level, foremost, we are working very hard to protect and raise awareness about the value of music, and to make artists, music professionals, institutions, other creative industries and audiences commit to tangible actions in joint effort. We believe that the music sector itself should recognize a little bit better the role it plays in culture and society, and the power of its voice towards people and generations. And that would be crucial, not just to the growth of the music ecosystem, but also to promote equitable and sustainable development in Italy, in our case, but in any country, actually. We developed a simplified SDGs manifesto called the Responsible Music Manifesto, highlighting the role of music in education, culture, society, economy, and employment. And we managed to have the manifesto signed by a great number of music stakeholders, artists, managers, labels, promoters, and many more, during a huge live streamed event that we organized last September in the beautiful Arena di Verona. It was called Heroes. And on that occasion, we also first met Marina Ponti and started this exciting and hopefully long-lasting relation. As a social enterprise with a social mission, we focus on different impact areas, and particularly since pretty much its birth, Music Innovation Hub has been working on an international level in the field of music innovation and music technology, which is hard to define when thinking about the music ecosystem, but extremely important and omnipresent. Also thanks to the collaboration with other European organizations with whom we also funded an informal network called Music Tech Europe. Over the years, we've organized research projects, educational activities, programs supporting innovative music business, companies and ideas, hackathons, and we have committed to speak about, spread and raise awareness about the so-called music tech sector, aiming at bringing the SDGs topics on this table too. So thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you, Anna, and you speak very fast. So let's, we just have to make sure, some of our attendees, English is one of the many languages they speak. So let's.
I'll go slower.
We'll try to go a little bit slower as well.
I will.
So Ragnar, over to you, and then Noni, and then we have Marina here as well, who's going to welcome us instead of end the session. So over to you, Ragnar.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be with you here. Hi from Stockholm. I'm director of Music Centrum East, so I just have to say a few words because that's where I come from. It's the artists. So we're a network of artists working with promotion, not for profit, supported by Arts Council. We also work with support to artists, mentorship, visibility, and all that, and culture policies, of course. And then we do a number of innovative music projects that I won't go into here. And the biggest one of them is KEYCHANGE. We are one of the co-founders of the project, and we are extremely proud that this is running even through the pandemic, because the pandemic has put a very dark shadow over many things we're doing at the moment, especially working with artists, since so many are on the verge of actually leaving the profession. So, but KEYCHANGE is a very positive project because we work with career development and capacity building for artists and innovators. So it's split in two between those two, and the artists are actually, they are showcasing, they are meant to take major steps in their careers, and the innovators are actually the future leaders of the music industry. So that's the core of the project. The second part is the pledge, where we encourage music companies, festivals, anyone in the music industry to sign a pledge for a gender balanced work. And we have now 475 pledges all over the world. And the third part is the political part, the manifesto, the movement. And we're working very strategically for a full makeover politically and structurally of the music industry towards gender balance. So it's 12 countries working together in this.
Thank you, Ragnar. And for those who have not heard of KEYCHANGE, we'll put the link in the chat, Ragnar, maybe. It's an incredible initiative involving many, many people. And so let's head to the wonderful country of Chile. I think that's where you are, Noni. Over to you.
Thank you, Shane, and thank you, everyone. It's nice to be here again in the festival, and congratulations for this edition. It has been an amazing job what we have been seeing. I'm Jonathan, but I'm Noni from Chile, from FIS, which is a social company who try to accelerate a cultural change. And we have been raised the voice of NGOs and social entrepreneurs through music. We started to put social entrepreneurs and NGOs in big scenarios with musicians in the middle of concerts, so people can hear some great stories about change in the middle of a concert, so no one can escape because they were waiting their artists to be there. And we have started 9 years ago in Chile, and now we have been doing in Latin America 42 festivals in these years, and trying to put music in the most inequality continent of every continent, so people can go together and feel for some minutes and for some moments equals in some way. We have been working a lot with NGOs and social entrepreneurs to give visibility. And now we are in a moment that we are matching all this experience between musicians, causes, and different game changers. So it's nice to say hi from Chile, and good to be part of this panel. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Noni. FIS has been an incredible inspiration to all the work that we do. So we're gonna have a little switch in the schedule and hand it off to the director. Please, Marina, over to you.
Thank you, Shane. But actually, I'm going to stay as long as possible in this workshop because I'm really passionate. So I was able to join earlier, but let me just say a few words. First of all, thank you to you, Shane, and thank you to KEYCHANGE, the Music Innovation Hub, Line Check. Thank you, FIS. Thank you to everyone who made this first meeting possible. I mean, we wanted to convey the same group in our festival that we had to cancel last year. So it's very important. And it's such a pleasure to have it today. And also, it's very important that, as you know well, we believe in the music sector to be really a key partner. You inspire, you mobilize people, and we really believe in the power of music. And today, you just presented your guide, which is something that we worked together for so many months, and I think this is just the beginning to really leverage this moment, what we call the turning point for people and planet, to really change things, to really turn around our society and build more sustainable and more just societies. And really thank you also, because many of you were involved in curating our strongest and more diverse lineup ever. And you know, if many of you are watching the festival, you know, we are really grateful. Our creative performances are actually the best. So now I really just towards the close, I don't really want to take any time, but I just want to emphasize how the music sector was one of the sectors worst hit by the pandemic. And but as in any crisis, it comes also the opportunity. You know, many of you in the music sector, even before the pandemic, had already taken very important steps to change, to move towards more sustainability, to actually bring, you know, attack some of the challenges in terms of gender inequality. So having more women, not only on stage, but also in the sector. And I really hope that through the guide and through this music network that many of you are creating, we are going to leverage the pandemic to really make a huge step forward. And let me actually close this opening with an amazing quote that from one Japanese singer yesterday. His name is Miyadi, who said, "I don't think the music can change the world, but music can change people, and people can change the world." So back to you, Shane, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for your leadership and you know, willing to go on this journey with us. That was a very, very good quote. So we already have a couple questions. This is a workshop focused on co-creation and participation. So I'm going to try to bother all of you 175 people listening to us to interact, ask questions, have comments. I'm already seeing some incredible examples and representation from all over the world, San Marino, Bangladesh, amazing. But I'm gonna start, there's a couple of questions for each of our panelists, and then I may stick in one of your questions as well at the beginning. And Ruth, I'd like you can you help me understand how the SDGs impact your work, especially in how do you encourage people to look towards music rather than conflict, and how does, you know, the SDGs kind of guide the work that In Place of War does, and can you give us a couple of examples?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so all of our work is really about using arts and creativity and music to make societal impact, to make the world a better place. And we've seen this manifest all over the world. And I think one of the most powerful tools within all of that is music that takes people out of gangs and engages them in positive futures. You know, music that gives people positive communities around them. A couple of examples of the way in which In Place of War works with music and the SDGs. So we have a program called Girl. Girl is a female-led project bringing together female artists from places of conflict to form a band. So we have around 10 members of this band from 10 different countries across the world. So these are all women of colour, women of different shapes and sizes, different ages, speaking in different languages. And they essentially form a band, a music group, and use music to tell their stories and their realities to the world. And In Place of War essentially provides a platform for them to tell their stories through. And this essentially meets a whole bunch of different SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. And for us, it's about kind of both the goals kind of driving what we do, but also the people that we work with in communities kind of driving what we do as well. Another example is around music spaces. So we see a great value in creating music spaces where people can kind of engage away from conflict and and surround themselves with music, positive role models, and positive communities. So we set up music studios all over the world and work with the music industry to leverage music equipment and music training in those spaces. So it's not just about here's a space, it's about a kind of whole kind of portfolio of support around establishing that space in communities. And we've seen spaces, you know, totally transform the communities that they sit within, taking people away from gangs, for example, in places like Medellin in Colombia, engaging people in hip hop. But through those spaces and through music, we're then able to have other conversations with those communities and engage them in education, entrepreneurial programs, and help them to imagine and determine their kind of their future and develop opportunities for those people. So within all of that work are, you know, we're meeting the SDGs, and, you know, we're kind of very much look to those goals as a way to sort of determine what our programs look like, but also what our goals as an organization look like. So the SDGs sit in our 5 organizational goals as well.
Great. It is amazing. I remember seeing Girl at, I think, at a venue in London, and it was amazing. But Ragnar, I have a question for you now. KeyChange is an incredible initiative, but it is in 12 quite wealthy countries, you know, Western countries. How can you ensure that it has global impact? And kind of what are your thoughts towards how KeyChange can be a tool through the SDGs to create change in other countries that may not have the resources that the 12 countries the KeyChange is a part of has? Oh, you're on mute, mate.
That's a very good question, because this is something that actually I think bothers almost anyone in the culture industry. That we, I just have to share a story where I'm a part of ISPA, that's an International Society of Performing Arts, and they have a fellowship program, which I was a part of, and they also have a global fellowship program, and which means that people like me from countries like Sweden, Denmark, UK, come to New York and interact and try to learn new things. But what happens with the perspective when we meet with global fellows from Cambodia, from Laos, from Zimbabwe, is that we start understanding things. I mean, it's not, I mean, we, like, for example, someone said that at least you have democracy. And I was sort of, yeah. I mean, culture support for us is not like culture support for them. And I think this is such an important perspective. And what I think we need to do in KeyChange, we need to establish these kind of projects, not that we should teach things to others, but that we should get a common understanding of how we can work together, because it's so true, all this that has been said, that music is a change maker and culture is a change maker. And but then we have the other, which might be a little bit more directly relevant, is the KeyChange Pledge, where we actually can encourage all kinds of organization everywhere to work out of their limitations and their conditions to make a proper change and to be a network where we can learn from each other. Because it's knowledge is the thing that, and inspiration is the thing that will bring things forward, I think.
No, and it is, you know, it's an incredible opportunity to kind of export a model that works.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a model that we know works, and we have actually 4 years to try it even better. And the reason we're here is because we are all changing all the time, and we are trying to interact with all kinds of actors and bodies that are working for the same kind of change.
Great, and I've noticed now 7 questions, so I've got a couple more for our panelists, and I'm going to go straight to you guys. Anna, I have a question about music tech. First, you know, how does it relate to the SDGs? What is it exactly in this context? And kind of, you know, what are your thoughts about how music and technology can meet the SDGs? And can you give us a few examples from your work at the Innovation Hub?
Yes, sure. So let's say...
Don't speak too fast.
I won't speak too fast, but Italian accent is easy to understand, so it's not going to be so hard, but I will go slow. Yes, so at Music Innovation Hub, as I mentioned before, we we have committed together with a bunch of other organizations to raise awareness about the role of music tech sector, because music tech is a sector that exists and that goes beyond the traditional boundaries of the music ecosystem as we sometimes think about it in a traditional way. So the recording, the live and the publishing sectors, which are the music industry as we traditionally know it. But actually, if we think about the ways in which nowadays we produce, distribute, consume music, monetize, etc., music technology is pretty much always involved. And it's true that among also the other content sectors, music has been indeed the first one adopting digital innovation and driving its transformation accordingly. So we saw what happened in the recorded music industry something like 20 years ago with Napster and peer-to-peer models, and we are kind of observing the same right now with the pandemic accelerating very much the digitization of the live sector. So it's a process that is really intrinsic to the music sector and is very strong also in terms of market players and market size. If we think about companies such as Tencent, Bandcamp, Cobalt, Believe, Ableton, Live Now, it's how do they fit in the traditional boundaries of the music ecosystem as we mean it traditionally. So we believe at Music Innovation Hub that if we want to foster a positive change in the music sector and hopefully in society as a whole, we need to be present as one music sector whose voice is currently too fragmented, and to do so we first need to acknowledge what is the music sector made of in the contemporary world and which are the players we need to involve in the discourse if we want SDGs being spread, absorbed and transformed into concrete actions for real. So yes.
Well, thank you for that. Again, it's music is so many things to so many people. As I'm noticing, I'm sure all of you are reading all the chat. It's quite incredible how much I don't know about the world, and it's just absolutely fascinating. Hopefully, we'll be able to save the chat as well, so we can maybe reach out to some of you. Before I go to, there's a bunch of questions. Noni, can you give us a little bit? I know that Feast is not just music. Feast does lots of different things. And I'm curious kind of how you look at meeting the SDGs in your work at Feast and how music interacts with other sectors. Because and if you can give some examples of what you have done in this regard.
Well, so when we started, we didn't know about the SDGs, and we were talking about these topics and these issues, and everyone looked at us as, what are you talking about, this new world that you want to repair and you don't want to change. We really talk about repairing the world and not change it, because we think it's damaged and we have just this planet for the moment and we want to repair it. So when we start, we were talking, we thought social innovators and NGOs has this power and this voice that needs to be heard. What is an energy that contribute with this to make it bigger and stronger? So music was there again as a gift to everyone. So we say, if we mix social innovators with musicians and with music and NGOs, and we put everyone together a little bit, not as straight as you can imagine, like let's put all together and let's see what's going on. And we started to do these festivals where people can meet social innovation and NGOs and music around. So it was really a very strong and passionate way of create awareness. So that's how we started. And then we met the SDGs, and everything was so clear for us. Like what we were talking about was there with examples, with goals and with everything. So we really fell in love in the beginning, and we start to turn our debates and our issues into the SDGs. So now our festival are talking about SDGs, are collaborating with SDGs people and social entrepreneurs that we call rock stars. That's what we make them. We make feel the social innovators. They were really the rock stars in this world, and they were changing and they were repairing. So that's how music came into our lives. And we start to create and innovate in the ways. So how that mix, and how can artists and musicians come into the conversation. And really, it was difficult in the beginning because music is different of music industry, and the music industry for us was too far, like managers and labels and companies to get musicians into the conversation was really hard. So I think we start to not asking and put everything together over there and invite to the experience. And then the musicians also start to understand what were their role in this in this fight also. So I think we have been mixing and trying to mix everyone that it's making changes into one place and create awareness. We really think we need to go deeper in create awareness and make people go together. And again, Latin America, Chile, countries are different. Everything is different. So what we have here is not in other countries and different, but the power of musicians, social innovators, and NGOs, it's really one of the most impact combination we have been living. So I think that's part of what we were doing last years.
Thank you for that. There's so much to unpack there, and you're right that the music industry and music are different. Both have a responsibility here, and I just, again, the whole workshop is about partnership coordination and participation. We've got a bunch of questions and a little bit of information as well to share. There's some great initiatives from the European Music Council, for example, and others, which we will bring up at the end. But maybe Ruth, and I can answer this too if you want, but this is from Tina Kosart, and if I mispronounced your name, I'm sorry. Do you know of any initiatives for artists prioritizing disability?
Yeah, so, well, we run a couple within In Place of War around kind of working with people who've been affected losing limbs in the conflict. So we have some programs in the north of Uganda, but not working with music in this sense, but working with theatre as a way to help people change perceptions of those with disabilities. So people in the north of Uganda who've lost their limbs face huge stigma. Often people from even within their own family and friends kind of disengage and kind of disconnect from them. So we've been running forum theatre programs, which are theatre programs that run inside the community, where the community can actually engage in the performance and use that to help change perceptions. We've been running those programs for about 3 years, and it's just really amazing how much, you know, obviously music engages people, but also theatre. I think any art form, particularly in places that are quite isolated, that don't have necessarily access to the internet, access to media, it's really amazing to see the power of the arts to kind of make those transformations. And there's more information on our website about that particular program if she's interested in finding out more.
No, great, thank you. And there's so many initiatives, Tina. There's an incredible organization in the UK called Attitude is Everything. If you Google Attitude is Everything, they focus on access to physical space as well as to opportunities for differently abled artists as well as practitioners. I'm gonna, this is quite a meaty question from Jenny Nidusukin. I didn't pronounce her last name. From Jenny, I apologize. But it's an interesting point. It says that she's concerned that music is seen as a tool to develop tourism, while the pandemic has showed how the global economy has left so many artists behind. How, you know, so it creates more of a precarious situation. And how can we create a more sustainable economic model for musicians that isn't specific to tourism or the cash in hand economy? Ragnar, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually at a panel talking about this subject this morning in a French jazz gathering, and it's, I think it's, I mean, it's a huge question, but one thing that because the whole music community was talking before the pandemic about the footprint. How can we avoid to put such a large footprint? And then we've had a pandemic and been actually learning new tools. But what we are talking a lot about now is both like finding hybrid ways of spreading music, but hybrid ways where musicians and musicians get paid. That's one thing. The other thing is to look at touring in a totally different way, where you sort of slow touring and where you value the live experience much, much higher. So when you, not this in and out effective touring, going staying one night at each place, but staying and interacting with a community and the civil society to make a different kind of touring. I don't know if that's an answer, but I think this is the way many people are discussing at the moment.
Yeah, I think, Jenny, as well, one of the issues that is linked to SDG 8, for example, and SDG 11 is that the music industry, or making money out of music, is not recognized in how a lot of governments understand jobs and understand economic growth. Because music has multiple revenue streams and it's very complicated. One of the challenges that is faced in many countries in the world, some of you as well who are listening, is a lack of recognition of copyright. And so these are the things that we hope, by bringing light to the value of music and how music can be such an incredible earner as well. We call it mailbox money, right? It's money that just shows up in your mailbox. You don't, when you have copyrights and proper work that is registered. So that is something that we all have to advocate for. And also adopting and working with new technology. And I'm curious, Anna, what are your thoughts in terms of that question? How can we create a more sustainable music economy out of the pandemic, linking with the SDGs?
Yeah, that's totally links to the things we were talking about, because of course, I'm not saying that technology and digital directly mean good or better, because it's not like that. The technology can have also a very bad social and ecological impact as well. If we think about now, for instance, all the discussion about the CO2 emissions in the minting process of the NFTs, for instance, which is a super hype topic at the moment. So it's not automatic that tech and digital mean better, more sustainable, good. But the point is that, I believe that that technologies can really create huge opportunities for music creators, music business, music communities, if used appropriately, if used in a sustainable way. Basically, I believe that technologies are tools, are just tools. And if we want them to use them to create speculative bubbles that make rich people even richer, they will probably create speculative bubbles. But if we want them to help us shape a better, more fair, more diverse, more valued music ecosystem, I think that there's a good chance that they will, because they are really tools in our hands, and there is a great community beside the big tech players that I was mentioning before, that of course need to be recognized as part of the music ecosystem and as part of a united music sector. But it's not just that, it's a great community of music innovators that bring innovation from the bottom up, and that use blockchain, metadata, IoT, artificial intelligence to help create new models that are often aiming at improving the current models that we have, that we are also saying that sometimes are not so functioning in redistributing values and in creating fair opportunities for artists, for rights holder, and for audiences as well. So I think that, again, if not just to give it for granted that tech can help us no matter what, but if used and implemented in sustainable ways and in conscious ways, they can really help us to shape a better music ecosystem in that sense.
Yeah, and it comes down to education as well, and understanding how people make money and then explaining it to governments. But I love a question, I think it was put in the chat by Stacy Morse, and I'm gonna ask Noni, what are the greatest obstacles to your work now? like in terms of the SDGs? I know because you run such a large series of events in many places. You know, what challenges do you have in relation to getting people to recognize this?
So I think we're still in a phase that we need to explain to a lot of people, like in our continent at least, what it means. What are we talking about? It really is, we are in some first steps in this moment. And I think in our world, what is happening now in this moment of pandemic and transition is that the we're getting faster in that mission in explain to the people. Now it's really more everyone is really more connected. If when we start 8 or 9 years ago, we were crazy people talking about this, and now it's everything in a mood that we really need to again like go deeper and explain what are the SDGs and what are you talking about and what it means to your life directly, and what is a name that you're doing something that you don't know is related with that specific SDG, because the vocabulary that you use is not the same, but the action that you're doing is the same. So I think we are again in this first chapter of explaining and put together the concepts of SDGs, of people and action around them. So I think we are more compromised in that mission in this moment to try to bring people together. I think we are in an exceptional moment. Of course, it's painful what we're looking and what we're seeing, but if you look in the other side, there has never a moment like this, at least for my generation. Like, I don't know if we're going to have another chance to go all in as we want to do now, because we are experimenting this future that we see that is sustainable and bright and that it's near, but it's not yet, but it's near and you can feel it. And in the other hand, the past, that the things you want to keep and maybe throw away because of bad behaviors, but it's not yet going. So we are in that part of the process. And I think when we talk about music and the SDGs, this energy, and I know there's a market and a lot of things that we need to create, but we really need to rethink how we're gonna take this gift and this energy and this work and this creativity that is music to help to go to a sustainable future that is now. So I think we're in that part again, and we will insist in that.
Yeah, this is, you know, COVID, as horrible as it is an incredible case study for the value of music. So, you know, I'm from balconies in Italy in April to festival cancellations. You can point to a government and say, you know, that money that you made last year, you're not making it this year. Maybe we need to think a little bit more intently about protecting and preserving and supporting music. But you're right, we have to speak a language, and we have to develop this language, which is what we're all trying to do. It's what the Guide to Music and the SDGs is about. And on that note, we have a few more questions. I'm kind of, there's so many fantastic questions and comments. But if you guys have one, please put it in the Q&A, because some of you have put questions in the chat and it's hard for me to keep up with both. But I'm going to say, Ragnar, you know, what when it comes to KEYCHANGE, for example, and the music development work that you guys do at Music Centrum Oost, what are opportunities to connect and make social impact? What if you're starting out? Like, where do you go? What do you do to try to get involved in something like KEYCHANGE?
I mean, what I think it's interesting. We're talking about the momentum we have now. We have been able to stop and reflect a bit. And we're talking about opportunities in different ways. But what I would love, I think we need to talk more about the distribution of power. And the distribution of power is the distribution of fundings, but it's also distribution of knowledge. Because, I mean, we can take Spotify. I don't want to demonize anything, but what we know is that Spotify pays around maybe 60% of their revenues back to the record companies. They are making money, but they are not ending up at the artists. The same thing is with the new technology. We have seen huge live stream concepts like the big ones from Korea with 600,000 sold tickets. So what I'm saying is that I so much want us to go out in the new world with a new perspective, where the commercial parts understands that we need this ecosystem, and we need to support the grassroots a lot more than we do now. And our perspective are the musicians, and I am surrounded by tragedy today, and this goes also with a gender balance issue, and because we also have to talk about the distribution of power there. So it's a very, very sort of spinning answer, but I just wanted to say that this is what I'm looking at, either a bright new future where we actually starting to take care of a lot of the problems we had before the pandemic, or a pretty harsh future. And I want it to be bright and good.
Let's remain optimistic for the next 10 minutes. No, but as we finish up, but I've got a couple amazing questions before we'll close up. Just this one, Ruth, I think you would know this. Can you give us some this is from Annie Yim. Could you give us some artist-led initiatives that inspire you? Because we have talked about more institutional.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I might just talk about one that kind of came out of the pandemic. So we've been working with our music change makers across the world in a response to what happened during the pandemic, and them dealing with the kind of critical and unique challenges they've been facing in their communities. So we were able to work with the music industry, which I think is a really important point here. We did some big crowdfunding campaigns with Beatport, Native Instruments, and we raised a whole bunch of funding, and we're able to distribute that funding to our music changemaker organisations across the global south. And we supported them to do what they felt they needed to do in their community. So we supported a group in Caracas in Venezuela with a mobile sound system project. So people living in high-rise buildings were feeling very isolated, and they created a mobile sound system that drove around the streets of Caracas playing music, reading messages to loved ones, bringing people to their balconies during the pandemic to help them feel more socially connected. We supported a hip hop collective in Medellin in Colombia to create a community kitchen project, where a hip hop collective basically created a kitchen, making meals for thousands of people every week. So we've been supporting music organisations that in their day job, in their pre-pandemic work, are doing remarkable things, engaging people away from gangs, engaging people who are living in situations of poverty in music projects. And they were able to pivot what they were doing and respond to the new challenge of COVID on top of the existing challenges that they face around living in places of conflict. So I've been really inspired during the pandemic about the resourcefulness and resilience of the amazing music change makers that we work with across the world. And I can post some links to some of those projects on the chat.
Yeah, please do. And I think Ruth from the European Music Council as well makes a really good point, is that the music sector is one part of the music ecosystem, amateur music and just making music is equally important. And access to music, regardless if you're pursuing it economically or not, is part of us really realizing the SDGs. I've realized we have a little bit more time, everybody, than I thought we did. So I'm going to get to a couple more questions. And I want to, who am I going to pick on now? No, I want to ask Noni this question, and then I'm going to ask Anna another one, but this is from Rachel Wilson. And how do you see the role of music in environmentalism becoming an active agent and not just a passive reflection? Because you are organizing festivals all over the place. How do you respond to that?
So in this area and in other, it has really a strong leader that you can do. But first of all, it's like, one, it's the message, and one, it's the coherency between the message and what the music is doing over there. So, for example, we that organized in the past festivals, like all the exigencies, all the needs that the music needs to put on a scenario with renewable energies, with the footprints and everything, that needs to change more than the message. The message is important, and we will keep going deeper in that. But we need more coherency. I don't know if that makes sense. Coherent between the message and the necessities of musicians and the industry to go in a more green world. So the role is very impressive, and the young generations are hearing from the artists now really some important changes about specific actions every day that you can do. But it needs to come together in hand with all the other things that are around that messages, because if not, it's just propaganda. And what we want to do is to show to the people the coherence between the message and the action. So I think in this moment that we are facing this ambiental problem everywhere, and you cannot turn your eyes around, we really need to make the music coherent about the message and the necessities when they come together.
No, and thank you. And I think as well, remember that, you know, live music events, festivals, they're like a festival is a little town, you know, and think about the invention and the innovation that can happen at a festival that can help create new ways of doing things across sanitation, providing electricity, and so on and so forth. And Anna, there was a question from Felix Barros, and I think this question is directed to you, and maybe you can explain a little bit what this means first, because maybe some of our attendees may not know, but what are the opportunities in relation to music and the SDGs in the decentralized or collaborative economy? Like, I know you mentioned blockchain. Blockchain means everything and nothing, with or non-fungible tokens, NFTs. And can you give us an example of an opportunity here, and maybe try to simplify what this means in relation to music and the SDGs?
Yes. So we said to stay positive for 10 minutes more. So I'm gonna say be optimistic about blockchain and NFTs. There's a huge debate around it, as we know, about the fact that, like, super quick explanation about, like, over the last months we've seen a huge increase in sales of digital collectibles, so NFTs, that relate to visual art, audio, media, music, a lot, especially in the last weeks and in the last month. Well, the thing is that I believe that again, as technology can provide different models and different opportunities for artists, for music stakeholders, for rights holders, there's definitely an opportunity, because, like, we can build on technologies, and thanks to technology, thanks to different ways of thinking about the web, for instance. Now there is all this huge also conversation about the Web3, which is not made of huge big platforms monopolizing the digital space, but that rather tries to make users and digital users reappropriate of these digital spaces. So I think, like, there are a lot of positive inputs in this that again talks about the reappropriation of digital spaces, about the different models to and different ways to value the intellectual property, which is the main asset of the music industry, through the sale of digital collectibles. There are ways in which blockchain can help track and better recognize copyright, and then help and support faster and more traceable payments for the music rights holder. So I mean, of course, there are a bunch of ways and streets that are open up in front of us thanks to this technology that can be that are definitely a light for the music sector. Of course, that depends a lot on how do we use them, how not to make blockchain become another huge speculative bubble that makes only super rich artists being even richer again, or that already again creates monopolies of huge tech players that have a terrible ecological impact in their processes, in their in their computing processes. So of course, it's there are risks, but we are in front of a pretty big revolution of how we can use the digital space and how we can rethink about the digital space.
Yeah, it's you know, again, I asked you a very big question. And going back, you know, there's one of the things about that we kind of, I think all of us on the panel, it's really about trying to understand what all of us are doing and really understand the impacts of what all of us are doing. You know, as I found out one NFT, just funding it was the electricity of a very small country. I won't say the artist, but there was a really interesting question. Well, a very simple question. Which I'm going to ask all of you, so please chime in. And it's from Daniel, I think in Nigeria, but you correct me if I'm wrong there. But he says, as a rap artist, how can I benefit? I'm going to change that and say, what can artists do, right? What is the, you know, how can artists get involved in music in the SDGs and therefore benefit from this? Who wants to take that? No? Ruth, I'm going to pick on one of you. I'm the moderator. I don't have to answer the question.
So how can artists engage with the SDGs? I think there's something about artists having a kind of social consciousness around what they do and around supporting other artists in their communities and networks. And I think we see this happen very naturally in the communities that we work in. There's music spaces that are being set up as spaces where it's not really driven by competition or people being excluded. These are spaces that welcome people to come in. And I think therefore they align very much with many of the SDGs. And I think naturally it's about, you know, I've been talking about this my whole career in music, is about, it's this idea of do it together. It's the idea of people working together and supporting each other, creating strong and inspiring communities around kind of their music work. So I think it's kind of artists supporting each other, essentially, artists building scenes together, building opportunities together. And I think it's that thing about strength in numbers. If you're one artist on your own, it's a real struggle. But if you're a collective of artists, you can have so much more power, and then you can begin to connect maybe with a wider, more global music industry. So I think it's just that thing about, yeah, I have it tattooed on my back in Spanish, hagámoslo juntos, do it together. I really believe in that, and I have done throughout my whole life.
No, well, thank you for that. I noticed a few guests raise their hands. So Alice from our team, I believe, for those who raised their hands and wanted to ask a question, maybe we can let them ask a question. So whoever that was, Inger, welcome. Please let us know what's on your mind.
Me?
Yes, you raised your hand.
Oh, I did it with a mistake, but that's excellent. I'm in the fashion business, and I'm living in the city of jazz in Malta, and I'm here with my jacket on, listening to you. And in fact, by this coincidence, I have to explain and invite you. We're working on a Gaia Fest based on the jazz and the history of improvisation. I believe that we have to, the circular economy and the SDGs, the circular economy is not about things, it's about creativity back into our workplace, back into our lives. So how can we do that, to have that spin with music and the global popular culture? And I believe so much that what Ruth said, the thing of working together, that's the most important thing. I would just say that I'm happy, and I'd like us to see and take the challenge of doing something on the International Jazz Day. So I would say thanks for this.
You know, this is all about participation, right? All about co-creation. So we want to bring people in. Thank you so much, and you made a great point.
The invitation on the jazz and improvisation. So it's the small city as a village, as a town, as you said. A festival is a growth point to grow new economies and new initiatives and get that love and joy. And in these times, we need that.
Great. Well,
thank
yeah, please put the link if you haven't in the chat, and thank you for joining us.
you.
Okay, and we've had more. We're going to do one more raised hand to join the, as this is all co-creation and participation, and we have Dino here. Dino, please let us know your question for the panel and say hello. You have to. There you are.
Hi, ciao, ciao. Nice to meet you, all of you. Just to thanks all of you on behalf of what Anna was just saying about the whole thing, and also looking at some questions. I think it's important not to miss the opportunity now that things are going faster and developing a lot in the music tech field, as it was 20 years ago. You know, we have seen a scene burning, and we left that development in few hands. So this is the main point. If you still think that technology is something that we don't want to care about because it's dangerous, it belongs to huge companies, it is, as I said in a paper shared in the chat, some conspiracy by the right wings to put, a bigger control on the things, then we miss once again the opportunity. What Anna was saying about the Web 3.0 is that we need to keep back the control on the internet, on the web, even if because it's the only way to have a global access to contents, global distribution to content. So we need to bring education in the cultural, in the technology, closer to the artists, closer to the managers, so that they can keep their own goal by themselves. And this is possible, this is feasible, it's very easy to access if you just study the way to do it.
No, well, thank you for that. I think that we all agree on the panel, and kind of looking, music is, as we say, music is tied to everything else, and we're talking about big societal issues. Music is part of big societal issues, and making things fair, making things more democratic across society will support the music economy. And on that, thank you again, Dino. We're going to try one more in the time, as our objective to be as participatory as we can, about you guys, not about us. Alice, can you welcome one more raised hand to join us and ask a question? Because I don't actually know who that was. Okay, Elodie, it's a pleasure to meet you. Please turn on your camera and
hello.
Ask away. What would you like to add?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So very quickly, I have created a podcast around the positive action around the SDGs, and I used to work as an HR director in the music industry for almost 10 years. So I would like to know which are the blockers or the challenges to have the music industry on board with the SDGs.
That's a good question.
Because they have power, they have money, so even though it's separated from the music in general, I would like to know, yeah.
Rag, do you want to start on that one, and then I can add in?
Yeah, I think, this is maybe because I come from the film industry earlier, and that we didn't make that very clear distinction between the music industry and the creative part. I think, when it comes to KEYCHANGE, the music industry, in a great sense, great extent, is within the project. They share, many of them share the same values and understand that we need to care for the talent. So I don't think it's a totally opposite thing. I think they are, but we need to give good examples. I would like to just shout out for Way Out West, which is a fully diverse, one of the biggest festival in Sweden. They have only vegan food. They are very, very environmental concerned, and they are making, not this year, and I'm very concerned about the future of everything, but they have shown that this is a modern way of where you can sort of, all those aspects are joined together. So, and there are more examples than that. So,
yeah,
so I think,
in an effort to be communal and offer friends, we work. The music industry are not sitting there trying to trying to make things more difficult. Sometimes it's all about the language or all about how things are proposed. We work with large global corporations on sustainability practices. It doesn't mean that they have a lot of work to do, but there's some very, very good people working within these companies. But the music industry is going through a period of reflection, to say the least. And I think that it is the hard questions that are being asked. I saw also some Q&A. People like, I know Michelle Schacht is here, who's an amazing thinker in this space and great artist, around how the music industry needs to reform. And I think that's all part of it. And I think one of the things that we need to do is we need to continue to link the targets and the indicators of the SDGs into how the music industry is looking at its targets and indicators, because you can be sustainable and you can make money. They're not mutually exclusive, right? So does anyone else want to add to that before we close the session?
Could I just come in there, Shane? One of the things that's been remarkable for me during the pandemic is this time for reflection in the music industry. And, certainly our organisation, which is all around social change, was able to build our relationships within the music industry. We formed something called a Global Music Industry Advisory Board that's got 18 organisations represented, some of the biggest commercial music industry organisations in the world. And what I found is quite interesting is all of those companies want to make lasting change in the world, but a lot of them don't quite know how to do it. It's not their area of expertise. And by bringing them all together collectively, we can have so much more impact, building on what each organization can provide. So we have organizations like Native Instruments, Roland, we have the Recording Academy, we have, huge organizations. And by bringing them together 4 times a year on a Zoom. So this wouldn't have been possible before the pandemic, because of course we wouldn't be able to bring all of those 18 people together in a room because everyone's super busy and all over the world. But now we can bring people together 4 times across the year, and each time they input into our programs and projects and help us maximize the impacts that we can have. So I found that a really positive shift during this time.
Yeah. No, thank you, Ruth, and thank you, Elodie. And on that note, I want to thank all of you for being with us. I want to thank our panelists. Obviously, thank you, Marina, for joining us. I know you're busy right now, and being with us for this it means a lot. We want to welcome everybody to the SDG Music Network. If you can go to sdgmusicnetwork.com. It's open for everybody to join to continue the conversation. This is a permanent place where we're all going to be meeting to try to come up with change and debate and speak to each other. And through that, we're having an official roundtable on the 30th of March, which is Monday. Alice has put a link. There's a Zoom link in the chat. I will put it in again. So again, on Monday, to join us for the roundtable. And please go to centerformusicecosystems.com/SDGs to download your guide to music and the SDGs. This was written for you guys. We really, really hope that you like it. Any questions, any comments, please continue the conversation on the SDG Festival of Action platform. And hopefully we see you all on Monday. So on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being with me. Thank you to our panelists, and we hope you all have an amazing weekend. Okay, let's make the world better together. Okay, all the best. Bye. Okay, we're still live. Oh, we are still live. So I think we can all exit this, guys. So, because I think we're still live, but thank you so much. Thank you, Christoph, if you can hear us. Marina, Marta, thank you. We'll speak to you all later.